Every empire that ever tasted it wanted more of it. Sailors carried it across oceans. Kings paid its weight in silver. Physicians swore it could heal. For 5,000 years, humanity has trusted one twisted root as medicine. But here is the question that haunts this whole story. Were they right? Or was it all just an ancient superstition? Hold that question. By the end, science will answer it. Deep in the steaming forests of Southeast Asia, ginger enters history wrapped in legend. Indian goddesses were said to have given it as a sacred gift. Chinese sages claimed to have discovered it in the mountains. But the truth is stranger than any myth. Here is the first mystery. In 5,000 years, no one has ever found ginger growing wild. Not once. It exists nowhere on Earth in its natural state. Every ginger plant alive today descends from roots planted by human hands, passed from generation to generation for millennia. Botanists call this a true cultigen, a plant so completely shaped by humans that its wild ancestor has vanished from the world. We carried it, we bred it, we spread it, until the original was lost forever. Ginger is not just a plant we use. It is a plant we made. Its journey began with the Austronesian peoples, master sailors of the ancient Pacific. Over 5,000 years ago, they packed ginger onto outrigger canoes and carried it across the open ocean, reaching islands as far as Hawaii, long before writing, long before empires. From those first voyages, ginger spread into India and southern China, and there, two of the world's oldest civilizations began to record its power. This is where the legend meets the written word. In the courts of ancient China, physicians treated ginger as living medicine. They grated it into boiling water and believed its rising steam could calm the stomach and steady the spirit. Chinese healers named it a sacred remedy for sickness, a title it would carry for 2,000 years. Far to the west, in ancient India, ginger entered the sacred science of Ayurveda. Healers called it a great medicine, a root that could warm the body, awaken digestion, and balance a person's inner energy. In village homes, it was boiled like tea and passed down as everyday medicine. But why does this ordinary root burn on the tongue? Why does it bite? That heat is not an accident. It is a chemical weapon, and inside it lies the entire secret of ginger's power. Remember that burn. We will return to it. By the time of the Roman Empire, ginger had traveled the length of the known world. Roman tables prized it. Roman physicians prescribed it. It crossed deserts and seas by camel and by ship, one of the very first spices ever to reach Europe from the east. Then Rome fell, and ginger nearly vanished from Europe. Arab traders seized control of the spice routes and guarded their secret fiercely. They told buyers that ginger grew at the edge of the world, in lands ruled by monsters, a lie that kept the price impossibly high. And the price was staggering. In medieval Europe, half a kilogram of ginger cost as much as a living sheep. A single root could be traded for livestock. To own ginger was to display wealth itself, a luxury reserved for the tables of kings and the very rich. In the crowded markets of Venice, ginger passed through the same hands as gold and silk. Whole fortunes were built on this root. Fleets sailed, wars were funded, and merchant families rose to power on the trade of a single spice. Then came Marco Polo. In the 13th century, he traveled to the east and saw ginger growing with his own eyes, breaking the Arab illusion of a monstrous faraway land. His writings reignited Europe's hunger, and the spice trade exploded across the known world. On the great voyages of discovery, ginger became a sailor's lifeline. Crews chewed the dried root to fight the endless nausea of life at sea. On long journeys, it was as valuable as fresh water, a small defense against the misery of the waves. When Columbus crossed the Atlantic, ginger sailed with him. Within a few decades, Spanish ships had carried it to the Caribbean, where the warm islands embraced it. For the first time in history, ginger grew outside of Asia, and the ancient monopoly was finally broken. Everywhere it traveled, ginger took on new meaning. In China, it came to mark the birth of spring. In India, it became a symbol of prosperity and health. In Europe, it became the warm taste of winter, of Christmas, of celebration. One root, a different soul in every land. In Japan, it became something delicate and precise. Thin slices pickled in vinegar, the pale pink ginger served beside sushi to cleanse the palate between bites. What began as ancient medicine had become an art of flavor, refined over centuries. In the markets of India, ginger met black tea and gave birth to masala chai. Street sellers grated the fresh root into boiling milk and spice, and the aroma pulled crowds from across the bazaar. A humble drink that would one day be loved around the world. In the cold heart of Europe, ginger became sweetness against the dark. Bakers pressed it into cookies and cakes, and gingerbread became the taste of Christmas itself, warming the long northern winters with a spice carried from the tropics. For thousands of years, across every one of these cultures, humanity believed one thing without proof, that ginger was medicine, that it truly healed. But belief is not evidence. So we return, at last, to the burning question. Were they right? The answer begins with that bite on the tongue. Modern science has now isolated the molecule responsible, and its name is gingerol. This single compound is the source of ginger's heat, its flavor, and, as it turns out, much of its power. Then scientists discovered something remarkable. When you dry ginger, gingerol transforms. Through dehydration, it becomes a second molecule called shogaol, sharper, stronger, and even more powerful. This is why dried ginger bites harder than fresh. Ancient healers who dried their ginger were, without knowing it, concentrating the medicine. For centuries, no one knew these names. The healers of China and India could not have named a single molecule. And yet, by trial and error across thousands of years, they had found the exact compounds that modern laboratories are only now beginning to understand. So what does the science actually say? In laboratories, gingerol and shogaol have been shown to fight inflammation, calming the very pathways in our cells that drive swelling and pain. The ancient claim that ginger soothes an aching body now has a molecular explanation. And ginger's oldest reputation, as a cure for nausea, has been tested most of all. The evidence is strong enough that the European Medicines Agency now formally recognizes ginger for preventing the nausea of motion sickness. The remedy Chinese physicians named 2,000 years ago has passed the test of modern medicine. Researchers have even traced how it works. Gingerol and shogaol act on the same receptors in the gut that trigger nausea, quieting the signal at its source. The sailors who chewed ginger against seasickness were performing real pharmacology, 500 years before the science existed to explain it. Scientists have now identified more than 400 distinct compounds inside this single root, dozens of them active antioxidants. The plant our ancestors trusted on instinct turns out to be one of the most chemically complex medicines in the natural world. So here, at last, is the answer to our question. Were the ancients right? On the two claims they made most often, that ginger eases nausea and calms inflammation, modern science says yes. Not superstition, not luck. 5,000 years of human intuition, confirmed in the laboratory. But the story is not finished. Most of those 400 compounds are still barely studied. Somewhere in this root that we have used for 5,000 years, science suspects there are secrets we have not yet uncovered. The oldest medicine on Earth may still be hiding its greatest surprise. From a wild plant that no longer exists, to the ships of Columbus, to the laboratories of today, ginger has traveled beside us through all of human history. It was never just a spice. It was one of the first things we ever called medicine, and one of the few that turned out to be true. The next time you hold a piece of ginger, remember, you are holding 5,000 years of human history in the palm of your hand.